Welcome back, everyone. This is Dave from Corman Productions with another rewatch video of Quantum Leap, Season 2, Episode 19, Leaping Without a Net. According to owlsplace.com, they state that this is one of 10 episodes to air with Leap in its title. The episode's description reads as follows. Sam must overcome his fear of heights when he leaps into a trapeze artist whose sister dies doing a stunt without a net. The episode was directed by Christopher T. Welch. This is his third episode of the series. He has one more to go, Season 3's Miss Deep South. The episode was written by Donald P. Belzerio and Tommy Thompson. This is his first episode of the series. He would go on to write 13 episodes in total throughout the remaining seasons. In addition to that, he would write 12 episodes of The Pretender, which actually seems to have some crossover talent with this series. The episode takes place on November 18th, 1958, and originally aired on March 28th, 1990. Before going any further, I will tell you a couple of things. 1. This is not a spoiler-free video, so if you haven't yet watched the episode, go and check it out, and then watch my video. Secondly, if you like this video and want to support the channel, please like, share, and comment, as well as subscribing to my channel. Now, as a kid, I didn't particularly care for this episode. I am not a fan of episodes that involve the circus or carnies as presented in this one. The best of its kind is an X-Files episode titled Humbug, written by series favorite Darren Morgan. But having said that, the episode does improve a bit upon rewatch. Still not one of my favorites, but I won't go as far as to say that this is a bad episode. This episode is at its best when it focuses on the drama of the situation and not the broad comedy that I'm not overly enamored with. Sam leaps in on a trapeze, prepared to catch his sister Eva, played by Fabiana Udino. She is credited with having appeared in 2 episodes of the series because she was at the end of Pool Hall's Blues with Lines, the preview basically for this episode. This is something I learned is part of SAG rules thanks to my longtime friend Stacy. Fabiano also appeared in the movie Austin Powers, CSI Miami, and 7 episodes of the 90210 reboot. Altogether, she has 67 acting credits to her name. Initially, I wasn't fond of her performance here, finding it too guileless for my liking. But given the fact that she is playing an 18-year-old, that actually makes sense. In a lot of ways, her character is actually pretty similar to Sam Beckett's, in that they both had dreams, and were single-minded in their pursuit. Sam had Quantum Leap, and she has doing the triple. Eva jumps for Sam to catch her, and Sam completely misses her. And credits. When we return, Eva thinks that it was a practical joke of her brother's, and misses the fact that Sam is completely terrified. We learn through narration that he just discovered he had a fear of heights. Okay, show. I'm not sure that tracks with what we have seen in this series. Sure, he reacted similarly in the pilot episode Genesis, but that probably had something to do with the fact that he was being asked to fly a plane, which he had never done in his entire life. He seemed to handle heights pretty well in What Price Gloria, so I'm not sure that this fear jives with what we would see during the rest of the series. Kinda feels like you're making this up just for this episode. But if someone could point out an episode that points to his fear of heights that I am not thinking of, feel free to mention it in the comments. New drinking game for those who want to die from alcohol poisoning, kind of like in The Portrait for Troyan. Take a shot every time someone says a triple. I'll be dead right after this scene, maybe even during it. Eva, who wants to try again, though doesn't notice that her partner really doesn't want to, talks about a dream that she had about their deceased mother. Her mother told her that she could do the triple before fading away. This scene is interrupted by their father shouting at Sam, who's leaped into a guy named Victor. Their father, Laszlo Panzini, is played by John Triska, who has appearances in the movie Ronin, The People vs. Larry Flint, and Aft Pupil. He had 163 acting credits before dying on September 25th, 2017, at the age of 80. His performance in this episode, for the most part, was way too broad for my taste, bordering on caricature. Though I will say he does have some good moments towards the end of the episode. Something I haven't mentioned up to this point, the family is made up of Hungarian immigrants. AlsPlace.com says that this episode has a kiss with history. They say that on November of 1956, Soviet tanks invaded Budapest to restore communist order. 30,000 people died in the process. The Flying Panzini family, who we follow in this episode, escaped Hungary at this time. Laszlo yells for Victor to get down because he does not want him up there for reasons that are not known at this time. After yelling loud enough, it scares Sam enough to awkwardly fall off the trapeze into the net, causing a set of onlookers to laugh at him, which makes Laszlo even angrier. Eva insists on taking the blame herself, saying she wanted to work on the triple, something Laszlo is insistent doesn't exist. But Eva continues to argue passionately for it. Apparently, this was once a very popular family act, until their mother died. They still are quite famous, but not what they once were. As he often does throughout the episode, he yells at Sam, telling him to tighten the equipment, and then exits the scene. Eva says that she hates the place after her father leaves. Sam mentioned he's not so crazy about it either, but for completely different reasons. Eva makes the audience take a few more shots, mentioning the triple again and again. Not me though, because I died a while ago. But yet, I'm still making this video. You have to be impressed with my commitment. One could almost argue that it's very Evo-like. Outside of their tent, Sam finds himself looking at a mirror to get a good look at himself, which is one of those fun mirrors that exaggerates how you look. He's interrupted by Big Mo, and I'm assuming the name is ironic, because Big Mo is actually a dwarf. He's played by Phil Vandarko, who has 70 acting credits to his name, including Willow, The Black Cauldron, and Star Wars Return of the Jedi. He hasn't appeared in anything since 2013. His part in this episode is mostly annoying, but not for any fault of his own. That distinction actually goes to the script. Big Mo wants to know if Eva is going to perform the triple. Take your shot if you are still alive. If she does, Big Mo says, it could really put them on the map. Presuming, of course, the family will continue to perform with them. Big Mo asks Sam, and then dismisses Sam just as quickly, as he is not the one who makes the decision. Al appears at the 8-minute and 2-second mark, following an attractive performer. Gee, that's not so like him at all. Note my sarcasm. Sam calls after him, and the lady turns in response as well. Apparently, her name is also Al. Hell of a coincidence. Sam wants to know why he's there, but Al doesn't know, because Ziggy is having issues figuring that out. Well, thank you, Captain Useless. He is able to tell Sam who he's leaped into, which is something that Sam could have divined for himself by now, when Al realizes that Sam is part of an aerial act and says, "That's great!" and goes on to describe Sam's nightmare, Al thinking about how awesome it is. Later on, Sam will reveal that he knows of Sam's fear of heights. So knowing that, Al is kind of being a jackass in this scene. Sam makes his way to the trailer. This is another instance in the series where I have to ask, how exactly did Sam find this trailer to start with? Al wonders where Eva is, and Sam idly suggests that she's probably changing in her trailer. Al makes a move to go check her out, but Sam stops him. I'm shocked, I say shocked, by Al's behavior. In the trailer, Al reveals that he ran away from the orphanage to join the circus. Oh really, Al? What a busy, jam-packed life you had. New fan to the channel, who goes under the name Sandal Thong, recently suggested that Al is basically a bullshit artist. I'm thinking there's probably some truth to that. Al during the scene reveals that at 8 years old, he had a pet roach. Well, Al, at the same age, I had a hermit crab. It didn't live long. Victor's dad knocks on his trailer to ask if he tightened up the equipment. Sam starts to make an excuse when he's cut off by his father saying in a huff that he will do it himself, as he does everything. So far, not a single moment of this man being nice to Sam, and actually very few throughout the episode. His father tells him that he's on in 20 minutes, and tells Sam not to be late, which makes Sam kind of panic. He tells Al that he is not an acrobat. He can't go out there and perform. Al comes back with, "We'll never know if he doesn't try." I mean, what's the worst that can happen here, Sam? Not like someone can die. Oh, wait. Fortunately for Sam, he's not going to perform. He's in charge of equipment safety and not part of the act. That's fine with Sam as long as he doesn't have to perform. But Sam is not so lucky, which he finds out thanks to an update from Ziggy. There's a 97.2% chance he has to be there to catch Eva. Sam doesn't like this news very much, but in 2 days, Eva is going to die because her father drops her. Unless Sam is there to catch her, Eva is going to die. Dun dun dun. Alright, so, devil's advocate here for a second. I'll ask the same question that I asked during my Jimmy video. Is Victor the best person to accomplish this mission? Wouldn't it be better for Sam to leap into their father? He can take himself out of the running for catching Eva and work on Victor's confidence, which he clearly has a crisis of thanks to the death of their mother. Victor already knows what he's doing, unlike Sam, so he would probably be the more logical person to accomplish this mission. Having said all that, I think Sam is here for another purpose. Yes, to save Eva, but perhaps to help Victor reconcile with his father. But by bouncing out Victor, he also misses out on that as well. So, I'm actually not sure. Cut to Eva screwing with Sam while he sleeps, trying to wake him up. He does so and asks her what time it is, and it's apparently 4:30 in the morning. Sam groans. Hey Sam, I gotta get up at 3 a.m. in the morning for work. And didn't you used to work on a farm? Wouldn't you be used to waking up early? I mean, I guess that was many years ago. Anyway, she pulls the blankets off of him, and as it turns out, trivia note, Sam sleeps naked. I'm sure there are some female fans, and maybe some male ones, that would appreciate that bit of information. Sam wants to go back to sleep, but Eva insists they need to practice. On the trapeze? Sam asks with a bit of terror. Unless you want to try flying on trees, Eva responds with good humor. Yeah, I tried that once. It doesn't work. Sam claims he doesn't want to fly at all, unless it's on an airplane. From what I recall, Sam, you don't even want to do that. Eva suggests that their father made him afraid again. Eva tells him that he did not kill their mother, and there it is. The reason for Victor's situation with his father, and his own fear of being part of the act, is that he was the one that didn't catch his mother, resulting in her death. It explains why Victor's father is so evil to him throughout the episode. It wasn't Victor's fault. She had balance issues. Nevertheless, their father blames him. Eva says that he couldn't very well blame their mother. Sam tells her that he cannot go up there. Eva then tells him haughtily that she will then find someone who will. And when the circus calls, she will find a catcher, even if she has to do it with Big Mo. Somehow, I don't think that would end well. She tells Sam their mother is dead. But they are not. But if they don't even try to be the best, then they might as well be. Nice little scene. In fact, the best scene up until this point of the episode. Cut to Sam, watching Eva, as she practices by herself. Al comments, that's a little bit scary. Doing the triple and falling into the net is a bit on the dangerous side. Any more dangerous than getting caught by someone who doesn't know what the hell they're doing? Sam asks. Al tells him that he has a good point. If he makes contact, but doesn't catch her, that could cause her to miss the net entirely. Oh, Al, your goal is to get Sam to do this, right? Saying what you just said doesn't seem to be helping the cause any. Just saying. Sam asks if that's how their mother died. No. Their mother died because there wasn't a net in the first place. Oh boy! Sam speculates that the loss of balance could have been the result of an inner ear infection. Sam incredulously asks why she would even go on that night. And Al responds for the same reason that the kid is up there practicing all by herself. It's in her blood. Sam responds that he couldn't have leaped in there to catch her, because he's not a catcher. Al tells him that he could be. He has good balance, he's athletic, good sense of timing, etc., etc. Sam's fear of heights comes down to something that happened to him as a kid. Al says that Sam needs to get over that, or she will die. Sure, Al, it's that simple. This aspect of the episode bugs me a little. As a mental health and illness advocate, trauma and fear like this is not something you just get over. It takes more time than Sam actually has here. Not to mention the implausibility of Sam then gaining the skills to be a catcher. But that is actually a series-long implausibility, and not just an issue with this episode. It's something you just kinda have to accept if you're gonna watch this series. Eva spots Sam and joins him down below. Al gets an idea on how to help Sam, but he wants to run it by Gushy to see if it'll fly. No pun intended. The writer for this episode probably disagrees. I'm sure he very much intended for the pun. Eva and Sam hear their father shouting. Apparently, he's excited because they have been called to the circus in Denver. He's reading this letter to onlookers, which includes Big Mo. And it's not a letter, it's a telegram, which there's a little bit of a difference. I'm going to go ahead and say that I hate this scene. It's the broad comedy that I am not a fan of. Big Mo and Laszlo get into it over the fact that they are going to abandon all of them to go to the circus. He physically starts fighting with Big Mo, riding on Laszlo's back after he calls Big Mo a dwarf. This starts him away, with Sam knocking out people with one punch like he's suddenly Batman, and the fight ends with Sam taking Big Mo off his father's back. Sam says to Mo that his father shouldn't have called him a dwarf, and he should not have called his father a hunky. His father should have called him a little person. Big Mo seems to like that, but kicks Sam in the shins anyway. No good deed goes unpunished. So, I wasn't actually sure what the accepted term for a dwarf was during the current day, so I looked it up, because that's just the kind of guy I am. See what I do for you guys? According to understandingdwarfism.com, in the United States, terms such as little people, LP, person of short stature, are all acceptable terms for a person with dwarfism. Also, dwarf is acceptable to most people in the dwarfism community, so actually being called dwarf isn't actually wrong. Using it as an insult still wasn't cool on Laszlo's part. The site goes on to say that most prefer to be referred to by name. You know, kind of like the rest of us. Cut to Sam attempting to overcome his fears, which Sam applauds. He is soon joined by Eva. Sam insists on starting on the easy setting, asking for a single, but Eva tricks him and does a double. But Sam still manages to catch her. Eva sets up for the triple, but he is not so successful this time. Sam still celebrates, almost catching her, not realizing that by missing, Eva actually fell off the net and is currently unconscious. There goes Sam's brief flirtation with actually having confidence. She just had the wind knocked out of her, fortunately. Sam again tries to convince her not to do the triple, saying that he had a dream about a bird entering their trailer, which signifies bad luck. But then Sam has to go and push his luck, and say that he saw 2 birds, which Sam indicates good luck. Nice try though. This scene leads to them going to the psychic, who Eva thinks has been filling her head with the idea that she might die. Sam hopes that the psychic might help convince her not to do this. She doesn't, but she is in fact intrigued by the fact that Sam has lived many past lives, which she can see in his eyes, which means she is seeing Sam's many leaps. She also senses Al's presence. Cute, I suppose. Not overly fond of this scene. It kind of feels like we're just wasting time here. Having failed to convince Eva, Sam once again climbs up on the horse, or the trapeze. Al says he's proud of him. Sam asks what Ziggy has to say, and Al replies, still the same. If he doesn't catch her, and Al does this weird whistling thing to indicate that she falls to her death. We cut to a solo scene with Victor's father Laszlo talking to his dead wife about giving Victor another chance. But he isn't so sure that he can ever trust or forgive Victor. This is the first scene in the episode where I liked John Triska's performance in this episode. Well done here. From here on out, the rest of the episode is pretty good. Cut back to practice, Laszlo has decided to quietly watch. The only scene I can recall up to this point where he is this quiet. Eva again goes for the triple, and again Sam misses, causing Laszlo to jump to his feet to run to Eva's aid. He yells up at Sam, is he trying to murder his sister too? Ouch. I guess that's the end of that. We cut to the ride to Denver, which is a scene that probably could have been cut. Sam is riding solo with his trailer and Al. Sam talks about Laszlo's arm injury, which was actually revealed earlier in this episode. Sam doesn't even understand how he's even been managing to do the simple catches. There are some definite pacing problems with this episode, which contributes to this episode not being quite as good as it could have been. This scene is an example of that. Could have been tightened up a little bit. They get to the circus where they are greeted by Clifford Vargas, played by Richard Riel, making his second and last appearance on the series. He was last seen in the Season 1 finale, played against Seymour. I discussed in that episode his ridiculous amount of work, which includes 420 acting appearances. I've already been through his filmography, but I'll say again what I might have mentioned then, that he and Scott Bakula will have a reunion in the 4th and final season of Enterprise. The family gets into an argument over the triple, which Eva, who wrote a letter to Clifford, says they can perform, and Eva is the reason they got this call in the first place, which they are only now finding out about. Eva makes an impassioned plea to her father for doing this. Sam, meanwhile, says nothing. Doesn't defend her, or step in to help argue her point. Nada. I half suspect he hopes she'll lose this argument. She doesn't. She manages to convince their father, but he insists that he be the one to do it, not Victor. At this point, Sam does step in, knowing if he doesn't, Eva will die. Sam points out the reality of Laszlo's shoulder. Sam says he thinks pride is what killed their mother. The same pride that's going to have Laszlo go into the tent when he can't perform. Only this time, he's not going to be the one to die. It'll be Eva. This causes Laszlo to proceed to try and strike Sam, but Sam manages to easily stop him. Now I'm a little confused here. Does Laszlo try to hit him with his bad arm? I'm not sure, but he's easily stopped by Sam. Laszlo doesn't admit to defeat, but he removes his arm from Sam's hand and then walks away angrily. A victory sure, but not a happy one. Great scene, well performed by all. I wish this episode had more scenes like this. And it's showtime. The announcer announces the act, and then says it will happen without a net, which is why Eva died and Laszlo couldn't catch her in the original timeline. We see Laszlo quietly enter the tent to watch the show. Meanwhile, Sam is extremely not happy about the no net thing. He asks Al why he didn't tell him, because of course Al didn't know. He yells at Sam that Eva is going to do the triple, with or without Sam, in that case probably with Laszlo, which means certain death. So get pumping, get into business position. Nice little bit of tough love here. Good coaching from Al. We see the act in slow motion as Eva makes her jump, and then Sam catches her. Their father watches excitedly and removes the kid's hand who had been covering them out of fear. He joins his son and daughter happily. Sam wonders why he hasn't leaped, and then the answer soon finds him. For our dramatic satisfaction, his father asks him sternly, "How many times do I have to tell you? When you're up there, always wave to the crowd." And this little moment here is to signify that his father has both forgiven him and accepted Sam being back in the saddle. Sam smiles and tells him, "I won't forget next time, Papa." The two embrace and Sam leaps. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the episode. It lands firmly in okayish territory for me. Pacing problems, broad comedy are the issues for me here. It seems like this should have been tightened up a little bit. When this episode focuses on the drama, it is quite good, and I wish it had done it more so. Still, better than I have previously thought. Join me next time for Season 2, Episode 20, Maybe Baby. Another episode that I am not overly fond of, but we shall see if this one improves upon rewatch. If you like this video and want to support the channel, there are a number of ways to do so. You can follow me on Twitter at Core Productions. You can join my Corman Productions Facebook page. You can buy me a coffee, which is a new way to support content creators such as myself. And of course, you can like, share, and comment on this video, as well as subscribing to my channel. This is Dave from Corman Productions, signing off.